morning, everybody. Dear Baradisni, warm welcome from Goa Art and Literature Festival team this morning. This is the first session in Zuari, and I hope you enjoy not only this session but the entire day. We start with the first session, Poetry Matters, and I request our own English language poet Brian Mendonca to please come over to the dais. The other panelists, Sadaf Saaz and Pooja Nansi. Warm welcome to you, panelists. I won't take long. Brian Mendonca, as I said, is a Goan writer teaching in Goa at a college in Novel, and I'll leave it to him to introduce his panelists or give his self-introduction. Meanwhile, let me tell you, we have volunteers here to guide you. In case any necessity, you can approach Miss Tanisha Knight and Miss Mabel Montero. They are right in the hall or around. In case you need any help, they are at your. Thank you.
So good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of you here. And it's even more of a pleasure to begin the day with poetry. Right? Of all the forms you see of literature, it's poetry which is passionate, intense, lyrical, and what have you. So, to start the ball rolling, we have two very distinguished guests from one from Bangladesh and one from Singapore, belonging to the nations, belonging to the places which the festival is focusing on this year. So we are proud to welcome Sadaf Saaz and Pooja Nansi. On my right, we welcome you, Pooja and Sadaf. How does it feel to be in Goa?
Can you hear me at the back? Thank you very much for having us. Goa is a lot like Singapore. It's really hot. You sweat within 5 minutes of leaving your hotel room, so I am absolutely at home.
No, it's absolutely wonderful to be here, and really happy that we're starting off with poetry and Bangladesh and Singapore.
So then you see, if you didn't have to write poetry, what would you do?
Well, I do earn a living, so I actually run a few businesses and actually put on a literature festival as well, which has just finished, and it's our 5th festival. So it's good to see that Goa's leading the way with 6.
But the same question: if you were not writing poetry, what would you do?
So poetry will not make you enough money to eat. So you definitely have to make a living, and I made my living as a teacher for a very long time. I used to teach English literature for 9 years before I took a break to write full time, and I'm currently a writer in residence at a university in Singapore. So I guess if I wasn't writing poetry, I'd be teaching. It's my second.
There are a number of students in the audience here, and I guess some of them are creative writing students. What is your outstanding tip to write poetry?
I think in order to, what I always tell young people is that in order to write poetry, you have to read poetry. Just as like if you wanted to be a really good pianist, you'd practice and listen to the best pianist. So if you want to write really good poetry, you need to know what comes before you and then decide if you want to go away from it or join that tradition. But yes, so my basic tip is that if you want to write, you need to be a reader first.
So who are your, seminal
Is my mic
influences?
not on?
It's not on.
Yeah.
It's not on.
Would you like to repeat that?
Is my mic on?
Yes.
Alive and well.
Thank you.
Okay, so you were asking
This
who are
question or the previous one?
who are my influences?
Yeah.
So the first poet that ever brought me to poetry was Anne Sexton, who is an American poet from the 1960s. She's passed on, but she's one of my favorite female poets. I also really like an American poet named Charles Bukowski. He writes a lot about women and alcohol and depression. He wrote in California in the 1960s. I have a ton of favorite poets like Kim Adonizio. Some of my favorite Singaporean poets are Alvin Pang and Cyril Wong. And basically, I like confessional poets who write from a very personal place.
You like Plath?
I do. I did like Plath for a while, but between Plath and Sexton wins for me.
Give us a poem.
From
whatever you read.
Oh, you let me read a poem?
Why not?
Oh,
The audience will love it.
wow. Well, like no warm up, guys. Okay.
Give us a little background to the poem.
Right. Maybe I'll start off with the poem I wrote about my grandfather, my paternal grandfather. So, my parents were born and brought up in India. My dad was born and brought up in Bombay. So when I came to Singapore, I was only a year old, but then I grew up there, and I'm as Singaporean as it gets. But every summer holidays and winter holidays, we'd go back to Bombay in a little suburb called Worli. Is anyone here from Bombay? Oh, hurrah. Okay, so a little suburb called Worli where my grandparents used to stay in a tiny 600 square foot flat, just the two of them, and we would spend the holidays there. And so I have very fond memories of Bombay. And this poem is called K.L. Saigal's Photograph in My Grandfather's Closet. So if any of you watch Hindi films, K.L. Saigal was a playback singer from the 1930s. And he sang these really heartbreaking songs, and basically he died of alcoholism at the age of like 42, and he was my grandfather's favorite singer. So when my grandfather passed away, we cleared out his cupboard. We found a picture of K.L. Saigal underneath his pants, and we were laughing because it was not a picture of my grandmother, but of K.L. Saigal. So this poem is called K.L. Saigal's Photograph in My Grandfather's Closet. At 42, he drowned himself to death in alcohol, loved music with an intensity he could no longer contain. At 83, when you died, we found a picture of him tucked between the 3 shirts and 4 pairs of pants in your green metal Godrej cupboard. You had a love affair with the man's voice, burdened like pregnant thunderstorms, each note crying for a loss that bore too heavy, too dull and sharp, all at once on his heart. Tonight, I chanced upon the track by accident and listened with a growing lump in my throat to the voice that raised goosebumps on my arms, each one screaming like a peacock in resistance to the pain, asking, when the heart itself is broken, why go on living when the heart itself is broken? And I wished you back with all my heart, wished us back to that tiny room in Worli, you in your white linen kurta pajamas, seated 1 foot on knee in your torn leather chair, me sprawled by your feet on the green speckled floor next to the old JVC radio. I wished us back, Dadaji, because like you, I know now that the saddest sentence in love is, it's too late, it's too late.
Thank you so much, Pooja. And I'm sure most of my audience empathize with loneliness and loss as being such a powerful trigger for poetry. I'm going to transit to Sadaf now, but before that, allow me to present a small poem inspired by Worli, Seaface, the bridge. Because this is a collection of poems all across India, and this was written in Bombay. It was inspired by the scent my to-be wife was wearing. Right, so for the ladies in the audience, the scent is Evening in Paris. A summer scent wafts over my shoulder. Lovers at Worli Seaface embrace the sunset. In the dusk past array, full moon over Ramada, the smell of furs, the heat of Goa, and the quiet hum of Mumbai on the move. Feast day of Don Bosco, Maria Pitache, prawn curry rice, and a cup of black tea. After this poem, there was no going back. So, because man is from Bombay, so that's how it all happened. So Sadaf, that's a beautiful sari you're wearing. Can you tell us something about sari weaves?
Well, actually, maybe I should just read my poem, Sari Rings, which I brought a collection called Sari Rings in 2013. And I think, we just met actually, Pooja and I, and I think we have very similar influences as far as our poetry is concerned, and I also sort of like the sort of confessional. I was very inspired by Ashley Plath, and initially because I think she really sort of showed how you could explore intense emotion and at the same time approach subjects that maybe weren't being touched on normally. But the other theme I think that's running through here is sort of connection to the past, but still looking to the future as well. And that's what I actually felt Sari does. When you're, I think, and I've been involved with the other question you asked is what would I be doing? I've been involved very sort of intensely with the women's movement in Bangladesh for many years. Not like my mother used to say, oh, because you like to help more women, but completely for myself. And really with the belief that I don't want to. I want to fight anything which holds anyone back just because of the fact they're a woman. And you think that you have the world as your oyster when you're coming out, when you're growing up, and then you realize that you do have to tap it in, or you do have the wealth of the wisdom of the past as well. Sari reams. She will wrap around in circle gold, embedded with tresses of time, weighed down by river folds, embodied and enshrined. Mothballs sail in silent air, unraveled as time stood still. As I bring water-filled hands to cover my face, I see my mother's reflection, and within her, her mother's too, and in the void wonder, visage my daughter's cue. With heavy dampness as monsoon water casts the dice, this entwined piece of cloth, with centuries embroidered worn, intricate a form, engraved to body's desire, clings to droplet perspire, to carry on with defiance, or shield space within. Each thread with our past cushions, our place in the future we are in. She will carry it on her, hair piled high, or cascading free and wild, whatsoever her choice. I remember the faded picture, my mother's wedding one, with a gold circle nose ring. And now, I see it in my own.
Thank you so much, Sadaf. We see a kind of a lineage here where, mother figures, mother and matriarchal line is of great inspiration. Is this something that is natural? I mean, it's something that is not forced? I mean, do you have subjects which are male as well?
I think that you kind of write about what is emotionally moving for you, and I think one other thing that I would sort of add to what Pooja was saying about reading a lot of poetry is that whatever really matters, and it could be something which can be construed as political, because I think all writing is political, or something which moves you intensely and that you really feel like writing about. You need to have that command over the language as well. So it is important to read poetry, but I think it's important to read all sorts of, anything that you feel like reading, and develop that command and master of the language, so that in very concisely you can get across that feeling. And I think that connection to other women is definitely there in my work.
A couple of interviews on the net have spoken how you are very distressed about what is happening in Bangladesh, and how these bloggers are not really meeting with a very rosy end. So How do you react to that, and what is the place of poetry in this kind of scenario?
I think what poetry can do is connect to people at a very emotional level. So instead of, that you can write articles, you can, sort of express it sort of logically, a lot of things. But I think when you're addressing subject matter, one of the areas that I've written on is the women who were raped in 1971. And where you have, statistics sort of, given about like 400,000 women, and it starts to, you start to become desensitized. And I think poetry and even, theatre is a way of very connecting to an audience and I suppose eliciting some kind of empathy into things that you care about deeply. So one could write a sort of non-fiction article on it, but quite often when you convey it by emotion, there can't be that kind of intellectual, I guess, sort of criticism. It's more a connection on that emotional level that you try to appeal to.
Have you written anything on these murders and things in Bangladesh about the lovers?
I'm writing stuff, but I haven't come out with it yet.
Pooja, what do you think of? Are you, into activism? Do you feel you can change the world with your poems?
That's a loaded question. No, I don't. I'm not trying to change the world. I think to be really, really honest, I write poetry for myself. I don't do it for anybody else. I'm not writing to make a difference, or when I sit down to write a poem, I don't think about who's going to read it. I just write the things that are urgent or important to me. But the thing about writing from a place of emotion is that what I've learned is that no feeling is so special that only you've ever felt it. Someone else has felt it too. There's no emotion so unique that only you've ever felt it. And so oftentimes I feel that once you write a poem and you let it out, it will touch people in ways that you never thought it would. Or people will get something out of the poem that you never intended for them to. And that's fine, because every reader brings to it their own experience. So, that's all I can really hope for, is that it touches someone, but I'm not looking to do anything with my poetry other than write it. I know that doesn't sound very noble, but it's the truth.
I think we are all here to listen to the truth, aren't we? Because poetry is all about truth, and one sort of truth that stares us in the face is language. You write in one language or many languages?
I write in English,
Okay.
but my relationship with language is a bit strange. Is that my mic? Okay. My relationship with language is a bit strange because, I speak 4 languages fluently. I speak English, Gujarati, which is my mother tongue, Hindi, and Malay, which I learned in school as a second language. The thing about Hindi and Gujarati is I speak it and I can understand it, but I can't read or write because I learned conversing with my grandparents. So there's a whole wealth of books that I can't access, which traumatizes me, and I keep telling myself I need to learn how to read and write, but I don't. And I really love old Hindi songs. I grew up on them, so anything before 1960s is like my jam. So I really love Hindi. I love Urdu as a language. I understand it, but I can't write in it. So I tend to play around sometimes with using Hindi in romanized ways in my English poems. And I write especially about old Hindi music because it reminds me a lot of my dad and my grandfather. And for me, that's a kind of like a whale song, it's a kind of way to hark back to a time with them.
There are 2 poems that I came across of yours. One has a very long title. The Inadequate Vocabulary I Learned from Enid Blyton, Ted Hughes, and Jane Austen. That's the title of the poem. And the other one is just Listening to Mukesh. Somehow, both these poems intersect where language is concerned. That's the kind of feel I got from it. The first one is a little more theoretical. The second one kind of, undulates into a more kind of a thoughtful strain. I'm going to ask the distinguished public, which one shall we ask Pooja to read? Eden Blyton or listening to Mukesh?
Listening to Mukesh.
Here you are.
Good choice. I have it. Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading all my playback singer poems today, which is great. So Mukesh is another famous playback singer. And this poem, just a little context on it. So I struggle a little because in Singapore, Indians make up 10%, 7% to 10% of the population. But a lot of the population is South Indian Tamil speakers. So my husband is a Singaporean Tamil. His mother was born in Singapore, his grandmother was born in Singapore. So the kind of food they eat at home and the kind of food I eat at home are completely different, even though we're both Indian, right? So oftentimes I don't feel Singaporean enough, but then I come to India and then I don't feel Indian enough. So that's just something I struggle with, and this poem is a little bit about that. And there's a Mukesh song that kind of weaves its way in. So this is called Listening to Mukesh. Driving to your block, I slide in my father's cassette of old Hindi songs, and I am humming in twilight to the legendary playback singer's baritone, releasing those sounds in that language that makes me feel like I am home. In the back of my throat, I can taste my grandmother's translucent thin chapatis that as children we would hold up to the light, the dough so evenly rolled out, not one lump would show. I never appreciated them till her hands shook so much from Parkinson's she could no longer grip the rolling pin. I hear the children from the slum that emerged behind my grandparents' small 2-story apartment block. They are swearing in that deliciously punctuated rhythm only the born and bred tongue can dance to. I am home for a while. I can smell dust and kerosene in the air and hear high-pitched devotions to the gods blending without objection to the stone-thud bass of the latest film song. Jamming my brakes at a traffic light, I realize home is supposed to be these dustless streets, and the smells are alien culinary concoctions like pig's knuckles and chicken anatomy that my migrant taste buds cannot migrate towards. I have taught my tongue to like the garlic sting of Hainanese chili paste and form some Hokkien curse words. It even enjoys the harsh bite of it, but it is not a taste, a language that makes my heart sing like these notes on the car stereo. Chao kahan bataye dil, duniya badi hai sang dil, chandni aaye ghar jalane, sujhe na koi manzil. Tell me where I should go in a world filled with indifference. The moonlight filters into my house, but I do not belong. Neither can I think of a destination.
Thank you very much, Pooja. I was a little late because I was sitting in the wrong hall. I had the ticket, but I was in the wrong train. But so when I got this call to come across, I came, and there was hardly any seat in the other hall, and I was wondering why it was so packed. And I asked the person, "Are you come to listen to poetry?" Because I was a little taken aback. She said, "No, this is a session on sexuality." So I think we would be missing the point if we say that this session is not about sexuality, because considering the poets we have on the panel, it is something that concerns all of us in great detail. And I'm going to address this question to Sadaf. This is from an interview that was done with you, and you were part of the original cast, or you did a part in the play Vagina Monologues, and you say that you were a little kind of out of place, and then you sort of overcame this because you felt that women need to, push beyond their comfort zone in order to bring change. Can you tell us something about that, please?
In fact, my fellow Bangladeshi writer Muniz and Manzoor is here. We were both part of the first play of Vagina Monologues that was put on in Dhaka. And the main thing is that for years and years, we wanted to talk about subjects which mattered to women, but were kind of under a veil of secrecy. And you know, one of the areas obviously is sexuality, and of course nobody has sex in Bangladesh, you know. So, and it's a big problem because basically, you know, I suppose girls used to be married off when they were 12, 13, so people didn't have to deal with sort of non-married women. And now they're getting married later and later, and yet lots of issues are coming up to do with, you know, how men and women should, you know, be with each other, and what is, you know, normal, and what is something, especially I think with a lot of porn available on the internet, which, you know, class 7, 6, 7, 8 girls and boys have ready access to, and so the first encounter they have of sex is very violent. But we're not talking about the whole range of other experiences that one could have that are healthy and meaningful and positive for young people. And so even though English is obviously, you know, not the major language in Bangladesh, and we did vagina monologues, and I just thought, oh my God, I've been, you know, built up my kind of done serious work for 20 years, and then I'm going to be talking about my vagina in public, and people are not going to nudge, wink, wink, they're not going to take me seriously anymore, I'll get a fatwa on my head or something, you know. But I just felt like I've been working with women for so many years, and I'm always, you know, asking them to go beyond their comfort zones. I mean, how dare I not go beyond mine? So.
That is a very, you know, strong statement to end on, you know. What would you like this audience to do? I mean, how would you like them to push, you know, their comfort zones? I mean, is there something you want to share with them? We are in the last 9 minutes of the session.
I could read one of my poems out.
Oh, certainly, please go ahead.
Okay, so this is, I think for sort of young people that, you know, the way we kind of judge different people who are different to us or circumstances they get into. And so this is, I did some research years ago. We were working with sex workers about them establishing their rights when they're being evicted illegally from one of the brothels, established brothels in Dhaka. And I got to really admire many of the women we were working with. It's called Women of the Night. Women of the Night. They laugh a cacophony of camaraderie, and you could mistake them for savvy 30-somethings, getting together, having a drink at day end from the signals they send as they relax and chat. Yet they are not in a bar somewhere far. They huddle together in flickering light, ill-fitting heels, blouses bursting tight, light powder, musty rose, attar and lipstick red. Time for them to finally shed their attired facade. Some complain, others refrain. End of hard-working day, having a biri and a laugh, gossiping about their other halves. The one who brings her flowers so sweet, he who insists on his special treat. Another who beats her out of her wits, or confides to her his family twists, without the baggage of domesticity, playing the role of mother, lover, and whore in one. Some have regulars, lungis, safaris, frayed suits or vests, BO-stained shirting bearing belly chests, rig pullers, bankers, pen pushers, or the like, stingy bakshish givers, those rich Gulshanites, college goers cheating on paying their nights. Glitter, gaudy, bright colours in ties, women hair grooming, picking their lies. They vent, chatter, and share mundane news, routine sex, police hassles, and landlord blues. Local gundas threaten with constant demands under iron veil of the madam's high command. Noshta women, spoiled by reality, pierced by a sharp ferocity to the very edge of desperation, surviving by sheer fortitude against all odds. Scratch beneath the surface, you'll find deep loneliness, hidden among buried horrors. Their trajectory, sealed by a tragic misstep of fate. Maternal death, second wife, vicious gang rape. Lost in the city, seeking streets of gold, tied up, kidnapped, sodomized and sold. Outcast by those who needed to care, rejected by those who should have been there. With no safety net to catch as they fell, innate power from earth on hell, keeping them afloat while vilified, their basic rights repeatedly denied. These are survivors with no choice, and we denigrate them as beneath us, without a voice, not taking time to see how it would be if circumstance and destiny had been doled out differently.
Thank you, Sadaf. That must have taken a lot to write. It is so deep, it is so intense and lyrical. A kind of cataloging of what a woman goes through. The title reminded me of a book by Andrea Dworkin, Take Back the Night. I think that's familiar to you. We are on the home stretch now. I'm looking at Pooja now and looking at the timekeeper to the nation. Would you like to share a poem of yours, Pooja?
I think since I've read all these poems about my grandparents, I'll just end with one about my grandmother that I wrote just about last year because I was getting married, and something about getting married makes you think about all the traditions that you no longer understand and all the things you've lost along the way. So this was about my grandmother, and it's called What Now, You Old Woman? What now, you old woman, flesh like dough, what now? Who do I ask about the constant kneading, the divisions of water and ghee for rotli so thin? You can look through them like windows to childhood. Who do I ask when I need to know which shlok will make my wished for things apparate? Who will tell me how many times I need to let the words vibrate, small hummingbirds on my lips as I caress Rudraksha beads, tuck them under my pillow. You see, it's been hard times, and I need a talisman of your making. So what now, old woman? Can you hurry up your limping gait? Can you untuck the handkerchief from your sari, unfold it to reveal turmeric for my wounds, and say you are watching me? Tell me I am doing it all wrong. I have been too liberal with the salt again, and this is not what Arjun would have asked Krishna, as if you taught me nothing with those stories. Come look at me in disappointment and say I am a sorry excuse for a Gujarati girl. Speak to me from wherever you are, because the nights keep falling and nobody knows how I could be any granddaughter of yours.
I think we've had some awesome poetry. What do you think, audience? Any responses, quickly? Stop. You won't get them again. Anybody like to say anything for these lovely? Thank you.
I have a question for Pooja. I really, love your poems and how personal, how intimate they are. But looking from the outside, we see or hear of Singapore as a place that's not famous for, sorry?
Not famous for feeling.
Not famous for feeling, and also not famous for rights. It's has a reputation for being restrictive. But your poems don't overtly engage with politics, and maybe therefore you personally don't have to face it in quite the same way. But still, as a writer in a place, in an environment where there is a certain regime of restrictions, how does it affect you as a writer, or how does it affect the culture of writing in Singapore?
So we've certainly had a lot of discussion about censorship in Singapore. I do think that it's not as much like North Korea as people think it is. We are actually, it's a bursting scene, and weirdly enough, we are saturated with poets. I don't know what it is about Singapore, but we're saturated with poets. So I don't write very political poems, outrightly political poems, but I think as Sadaf said, like all poetry to me is political. So in a sense, what I struggle with about in Singapore is being a woman of a minority race. So a lot of the times my experiences aren't what you would normally think about when you think about Singaporean, because Singaporean is usually male and Chinese, So I'm always struggling against that. So a lot of my work goes back to my heritage, my Indian heritage, because I feel like I need to stamp that and say, well, I'm Singaporean too, So I haven't personally faced a lot of censorship, but a lot of my peers have. And I mean, there's a lot of dynamic discussion going on about state funding and things like that. I think that would be a whole other session. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question. We're taking one last question for Sadaf from the audience right now.
So, Sadaf, since you write about kind of political things, have you ever actually got in trouble for a poem?
No, I haven't. Maybe it's because, well, first of all, I don't start out for it to be political. I think what you said, I write for me and what I care about. But I think in Bangladesh actually, because you're writing in English, you're actually a bit off the radar as well. So that's a factor in it. But I do think that, you know, it can be dangerous, especially in this time, you know, this current situation. I think we all find ourselves in South Asia where self-censoring may come in, or you think twice about where your work is being published, and sometimes if it's translated, how it's coming across, because just one word can actually maybe trigger, you know, a kind of soundbite that becomes dangerous. So I think there's a lot to consider when we're talking about who's writing now, and self-censoring, I think is, I mean, I haven't self-censored yet, but I hope, and I'm trying to get to I'm actually like going beyond poetry and trying to write a novel as well, but I think one of the challenges, I think, as a woman writing, like living in Bangladesh, and it's not just political, I think it's kind of social as well, how you write exactly what you want without, you know, self-censoring.
I want to thank Sadaf and Pooja for being such wonderful panelists on this opening session on the second day of GALF. I want to thank the audience for their lovely questions which widened the scope of the discussion. These 40 minutes, we were trying to answer or trying to reach a deeper understanding of two words, which is poetry matters. I don't think there's any doubt on that anymore. Thank you once again.